Good morning, Kingsville. I'm Julie Tebow, and I am happy to be here this morning with Amber Thomas and Miss Shirley Miller. The last few weeks, as a church, we have been focusing on an emphasis of family worship in the church, and that's been so encouraging. And so we also want to take some time to encourage you all, maybe those who are not in a position to have family worship all the time, maybe those who are single or widows and widowers, whatever situation you find yourself in. We just wanted to send some encouragement. So first of all, one very unique blessing that we have as singles are just very devoted, uninterrupted time with the Lord each day. And I think it's important to recognize that time of silence and solitude as a blessing and something to be grateful for. So the first question is, can you share with us your experience in your daily quiet time with the Lord, and do you have any advice on just on the spiritual or the practical level?
I guess I'll start off. I've been walking through Genesis for the past couple of weeks, and then also just trying to memorize and meditate on Psalm 103. And that has been a big blessing for me in this season. Also trying to cultivate a love for reading, and a book that I would just wholeheartedly recommend for anyone during this time is Dane Ortland's Gentle and Lowly, and just talking about the heart of Jesus. And so that is such a timely and necessary message for me during this season. Something that I would like to just encourage us all with, whether you are married or single, but primarily talking towards those who may find themselves in a single season, is how we see our emotions. Are we letting our emotions rule over us, or are we ruling over our emotions? And I guess what I mean by that is, are we feasting on how the Word depicts God's character and trusting that, or are we trusting how we feel in the moment? Because the reality is our heart is fickle and deceitful above all. And I think it's a good time for us to make a holy habit and good practices and disciplines of taking our thoughts captive. Miss Shirley, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I live alone now that my husband is deceased, and we always had our special time to read the Bible in the mornings alone. He liked to have time to study what he wanted to study, and then we would talk about it. And I've learned to enjoy my study time, my private time, quiet time. And if I don't do it when I first get up, then the day is gone. And I have gotten into the habit. I get up, I punch my coffee pot on, I put my puppy aside where he doesn't bother me, and I sit down and I have my quiet time, and I read my Bible, and I have my prayer time. I have several people that I pray for because they have problems, and I feel like I keep in touch with them through prayer, and I enjoy that time. And then when I find something interesting that my grandchildren, I feel like, can learn from, I make a copy of it and I send it to them. They're both out of state, and I enjoy sharing things that I read or learn while reading with them. So even though I'm by myself, I don't feel alone.
Yeah, thank y'all so much for sharing. That's very encouraging. I also want to add, just in my experience with my time with the Lord, this season within the stay-at-home order has actually been a good time with the Lord, because I've kind of been forced to be alone more often than normal. And so there has been the tendency for me in my life to, kind of wish, I would love to have a family right now, I wouldn't be alone. But at the same time, just remembering that our Father gives good gifts, and having time of undistracted devotion to the Lord really is a rare and precious gift. And so I've just been grateful to develop those habits during this season and grow in closeness with the Lord. I think of in Luke when Mary was sitting at the feet of Jesus, and just desiring that in my personal walk with the Lord. And also just some practical things that I've learned that have really helped to shape my time with the Lord has been just having some structure and some lists to go along with my quiet time. And I know that that might not work for everyone because it may feel too much like a check mark type of thing. But for me, it has really helped develop habits within my time with the Lord. For instance, I just started working on memorizing the New City Catechism questions and answers, and that's something I just started at the beginning of May. And so having that written down on a list where I can refer to has helped develop that habit. And so just as some practical things, that's really been helpful for me in developing those habits of making the most of this time with the Lord. The next question, how does having a consistent time of personal worship with the Lord, how does that impact others in the church?
Miss Shirley, I feel like you do a great job of loving on others. Why don't you take this one?
Well, I feel like praying for others is the most important thing, even if you can't be with them. I've had that experience with the elderly ladies that I work with. And when they tell me that they pray for me and each other in the class every day, I know this is true because I can feel their prayers at times when I'm burdened about something. I just know that they are lifting me in prayer. And to me, that's very important. And that has become important to me to continue to pray for those that even if I don't see them, if I don't know what's going on in their life, I feel like if I pray for them, the Holy Spirit will deal with them and be more attentive to them. And even they may realize that it's the Holy Spirit that's plugging into their brain and making them stop and think about things they hadn't thought about before. I firmly believe that the Holy Spirit really gets into our minds as well as our hearts and causes us to wonder about things and to think about things. But the older I get, the more I realize prayer is the most important thing you can do for someone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really great. And I also want to add to that, Ms. Shirley, like you said a little bit ago, that you often send different verses or whatever to either people in the church or your grandchildren. And so just thinking about how our time with the Lord fuels our relationships and our service to other people, that we can spur one another on, and that not that we do things to be seen before other men, but your devotion to the Lord really does leave a legacy for your children and your grandchildren and for other people in the church. And so that's really encouraging to hear. The next question is thinking about as singles or widows and widowers or anyone who lives alone, we often have to be very intentional about seeking out community and accountability in our spiritual lives. Dr. Whitney talks about the personal spiritual disciplines, but also the interpersonal disciplines, such as fellowship and corporate worship, and how important those things are. And so what are some ways that you have been able to maintain community and accountability and connect with others in the church that has served to aid and strengthen your personal walk with the Lord? And this can be both specific to this stay-at-home order, but also just in life in general.
Oh, I don't mean to jump in front of Amber, but
No, please don't.
knowing that people are praying for you and thinking about you really is encouraging and keeps you from being so discouraged. I got phone calls yesterday from couples that I've known for a long time, but I haven't seen them lately because we haven't and coming to church. And just to know that somebody is thinking about you and wondering about you and picks up the phone and calls you, I know that that's the Holy Spirit working in that person's life, and to offer help. I'm blessed that I don't need a lot of help. Amber's been grocery shopping for me, and that's an unusual thing because I've always been so independent and been so blessed. But praying for someone that you know is having problems, I think is the best way you can help them, whether you can do something physically or not. If you can cook something and take it to them, that's great. If you can't, don't feel guilty. Just know that they're in your prayers. The ladies that in my elderly Sunday school class, I know that nothing keeps them from remembering each other and me in their prayers, and that to me is a blessing.
What about you, Julie? What are some ways that you have just thought out community, like whether keeping in touch with your small group or other ways like that? What are some practical ways that you have continued in community during this self-quarantine, Julie?
I
Yeah,
send cards. I'm sorry. I send cards to my ladies, and then they call me or I call them. If they have a problem that they're worried about, they call me. Beth Cockrum called me this morning. She's having a tooth problem. And, we stay in touch either by phone or by cards. And now that we can't go by the house and see them. So it's just good to keep in touch whatever way you can.
Right, and that I've had a very similar experience with that. I've found that it's been really encouraging to keep in touch with my small group. We've done a few Zoom meetings as a small group, and that's been a really good time to share both struggles and joys throughout the stay-at-home order, and to pray together for one another. And then, as Miss Shirley said, just being creative, finding new and different ways to keep in touch and to encourage one another. I feel like I've gotten more handwritten letters in the mail during this time than ever in my life, and that's personally been really encouraging for me. And also just one thing that Pastor Bart spoke to me about early on during the stay-at-home order, I was feeling sorry for myself, and he told me, he said his advice was do at least one thing for someone every day. And as simple as that sounds, that really kind of made all the difference. It helped get my focus off myself and opened my eyes to other people's needs and in ways that I can encourage and share my life with them. Sometimes I'll cook a meal and it's too much for myself, and so I'll go and leave it at a doorstep of a friend or anything like that. Like I said, just learning to be creative and knowing that partly because of the blessing of technology that we have, we really don't even have to skip a beat. We can continue to be in community and in different ways than we're used to. Do either of you have anything else to add to that?
I was just going to say, kind of on the note of throwing a pity party, not that that's what you were doing, but I think it's easy when you are isolated and you feel like you're alone to go down that slippery slope of, man, woe is me, and there's no one who has struggled with this before. And I think it's important to remember that by God's mercy, He doesn't come and tell us to pick ourselves up by our bootstraps and come down and give us a pep talk, but also understanding that those feelings are valid, and it's just only natural that we long for others, right? But also not resting there, and choosing to take those thoughts captive and submit them in obedience to the Lord. And so I think what you're doing and serving others is great.
Yeah, that's great. And that kind of leads to our last question. What encouragement would y'all have for other people, other families in the church, on how to love and include and serve those of us who are single or widows or widowers who aren't able to take part on a regular basis in family worship? What are some ways that we could encourage them?
You know, I've been a recipient of some families just inviting me in on a regular basis and just making me a part of their family, whether it's by dinners or family worship or whatever it may be, and just them kind of taking me under their wing. And so I've been a humble recipient of that and ever so grateful, and I've learned so much. But my encouragement to families is like look around and see those um, who are single for whatever reason, and don't be afraid to invite them in. We are not asking you to let us move in your family and take on our expenses. I mean, but if you want to pay my bills, you are more than welcome to do that. But we do want to belong, and we have a lot to learn from you guys, and but also just an encouragement to those who find themselves in a season of singleness, to take heart, and it's Christ who holds you, and it is Christ who keeps you in every season. And this season of singleness is a gift, and it is my hope and prayer that we would steward it well, just like any other gift that we have been given.
I agree. Having friends is really important when you live alone. But I have to remind myself daily, I'm really not alone. I have learned since my husband's passing that God is with me every moment, day and night, and I feel his presence, and I'm thankful for that. But my husband and I have always enjoyed company in our home. I like to cook, and things have been so hectic since he passed away. I haven't had time to do that, and I'm hoping after this illness that's affecting everything is over, I'll be able to get back into having people in my home. I enjoy having people come visit and enjoy my home, and to me that's a blessing to have people come into your home and enjoy time and food with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I very much.
I'm sorry.
No,
Go
you
ahead.
go. Okay, I'll take it. So I was just going to say on the same note, that's been a big blessing for me. I know that will look different during this season of quarantine, but having people in my home and then also being welcomed into other people's homes. And, I know many of my friends my age in the church have young kids, and I really appreciate those that want me in the normal ebb and flow of their daily lives. That just a reminder for families in the church that we don't want perfection. We don't expect to come over and be part of family worship and for it to be just this perfect kumbaya kind of moment, but we want to be in the mess of it.
Perfection.
Of course you do, Amber. So anyways, that we just want to be a part of that, and we love it, and it means a lot just to be included in those normal daily things and family worship. And as I said, that may look different during this time, but just continuing to have that community in whatever way makes all the difference.
So. And I would just kind of jump on that. For me personally, like there is something within me that just like loves to be needed, and so with this extended time at home, you have kids with parents that are cooped up in the house and not able to go places, and so to come alongside families and to help them, like, hey, can I run some errands for you, or do you need something at the grocery store, and like that desire to be needed and actually other people needing me to do stuff for them has been super helpful. And so like, don't be afraid to ask us to do stuff. Like me personally, like, I mean, give me your to-do list, I'll do it. But it's encouraging to feel wanted and needed.
Miss Shirley, do you have anything else you would like to add?
I am thankful for the church and you younger people in the church who are so willing to do things. it's a blessing to know that you can call on someone when you need it. That's really a blessing. And I'm extremely blessed. I have been all my life with my grandparents and my parents, and I'm almost ashamed of myself for not doing more, being more, because I've always had so many blessings, and I am blessed to this day. And I'm thankful for this church. They do a wonderful job taking care of, making sure everyone's taken care of.
Well, we're thankful for you, Miss Shirley, and leading the way and showing us how to do it and do it well.
Yeah,
You all do great. You all do great.
Yeah, and I was going to say the same. We're just so thankful for you, Miss Shirley, and for other men and women in the church who have just modeled what it is to walk with the Lord. And so we're just grateful for the legacy that you're leaving for us. And well, if y'all don't have anything else to add, I'm just grateful for this time. Thank you, Kingsville, for letting us share this time with you. I hope it was an encouragement. So I don't know how to end, so I'm just going to stop the video and Steve can cut this part out.